I couldn't take another year of renting. I just couldn't. I live in Alabama, just outside the Birmingham city limits, and my apartment was awful. If you've ever been to the South, you know how horrid the summers are. Without an air conditioner, you're basically just roasting alive, which is, unfortunately, what happened to my fiancé and me. Our AC crapped out on us at the beginning of June, and it was July until the repairman finally came around, and when he did, he wasn't much help. He just removed the wall unit, saying another one would be installed soon. This meant we had a gaping hole in the middle of our living room, a lovely little entryway for bugs and would-be thieves. My fiancé covered it with a tarp, which did little to combat the sweltering heat. We practically swam in our sweat that summer, and it wasn't until late September that a new unit, which didn't really even fit in the hole, was finally delivered. As soon as our lease was up, we were out of there. Neither of us made much money, but we were able to save up a decent enough amount while living in our hellish apartment. We were able to afford a townhome that was close to my workplace. I was excited to save on gas and finally be free of my old apartment, but it turns out that house ownership wasn't as great as I'd expected it to be. There were strange sounds in the house at night. I was used to the constant footfall of noisy neighbors, but this creaking was inexplicable. Maybe it's a raccoon, my fiancé suggested. We still haven't cleared out the attic. I've only lived in trailers or apartments my whole life. I've never had a place with a crawl space or an attic, so that dusty room, filled with the previous owner's boxes, creeped me out a little. The space was so small and claustrophobic. I avoided going up there. However, as the noises grew progressively louder each night, I knew I had to solve the mystery. I carefully climbed the ladder with mace in hand. It looked much different in the attic than when we first moved in. Clothes were strewn across the wooden floor, and there was a scent I recognized as rotten food. We did have a raccoon, huh? I'd hoped it had just been the sound of the house settling. I've heard people say that happens. But something was obviously living up here. When I spied a half-drunk glass of water, I began to suspect that the culprit might not have been an animal. A sudden feeling of dread overwhelmed me. I tried to make my way back to the ladder, but then I spotted a dirty human foot sticking out from one of the boxes. I cursed under my breath. It twitched. The person was awake, but they were hiding. My heart pounded. Had they been up here the whole 2 months we lived here? I carefully exited the attic, hoping they couldn't tell I'd noticed. I dragged my fiancé out of our room and into the car, driving to the local gas station before promptly calling the police. I told them what I saw. Fortunately, they got that man out of my house before any harm befell us. I don't know what he was planning on doing, but the homeless man had stolen several of our knives and picture album. He'd violently scratched out my fiancé's eyes in each picture. I don't like to think about what might have happened if I hadn't investigated the attic sooner.